At 4:12 a.m., the sky over Georgia suddenly trembled. The first explosion shattered the heavy fog hanging over the city's industrial district. In the flashes of light, shadows moved quickly through the white smoke, voices shouting sharp commands over the radio. No one outside that team knew what was happening, only that this was no ordinary criminal raid. A federal operation was unfolding in silence, planned down to the minute, down to every breath, and only those on the ground understood how dangerous what they were about to face truly was. Their target waited behind cold steel walls in a place that would soon reveal something no one in America ever imagined could exist on U.S. soil. What could have driven the FBI, ICE, and U.S. Army to strike together in the dark? Who was behind the secret buried for months, and what really began at 4:12 that morning? Join military power to uncover the truth. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us as we explore the weapons, strategies, and political decisions behind America's new war against the cartels. Now, let's get into the story. At exactly 4:12 a.m., silence shattered across the outskirts of Georgia as flashing blue lights and helicopter rotors filled the sky. What began as a quiet surveillance mission turned into one of the largest and most coordinated drug raids in U.S. history. The operation marked a turning point in America's war against fentanyl, a moment when the United States shifted from defensive reaction to active offense. Inside the command center, agents from the FBI, ICE, and SWAT worked in perfect synchronization. Their movements reflected a new interagency strategy that merged intelligence, tactical operations, and law enforcement into one unified strike force. When the warehouse doors were breached, agents faced a shocking scene. Industrial mixers, sealed barrels, and packaging machines filled the space. What they found was not just a smuggling depot, but a full-scale production facility on American soil. The seizure totals were staggering: 1.22 million counterfeit pills, 850 kilograms of methamphetamine, and 400 kilograms of fentanyl. This amount could kill over 3.5 million people, more than the population of Chicago. It was a discovery that turned a criminal case into a national security emergency. The atmosphere inside the warehouse was tense. Agents realized they weren't just dismantling a drug ring, they were confronting evidence of industrialized death. Cartels were no longer content with crossing borders. They were building manufacturing networks within the United States. For the first time, law enforcement saw proof that America's enemies were adapting and expanding operations deep inside the homeland. The data collected from the Georgia raid stunned Washington. Within hours, officials were briefed on how advanced and organized the network had become. For years, the U.S. had treated the fentanyl crisis as a health issue, but this operation exposed a deeper truth. America was facing an asymmetric threat, blending organized crime with strategic warfare. Cartels were no longer acting like criminals. They operated like multinational entities with command structures, encrypted communications, and foreign supply chains. The coordination between production, transport, and money laundering mirrored the tactics of a hostile intelligence network. Analysts began calling this narco-hybrid warfare, a system where drug profits fund influence operations, cybercrimes, and destabilization abroad. This realization shifted the narrative in Washington. The war on fentanyl was no longer about public safety. It had become a fight to defend America's sovereignty. Officials now saw the cartels as a non-state enemy capable of threatening national stability without firing a single bullet. The Georgia raid was not just a victory, it was a warning. America's borders were no longer its only line of defense. The battle had moved inside, and the threat was growing smarter and more coordinated than anyone had imagined. But as agents cleared the scene, the decoded data from inside the warehouse revealed something far more terrifying: a network reaching beyond America's borders. When investigators analyzed the evidence seized during the Georgia raid, they realized they had uncovered something far more advanced than a local drug lab. The recovered laptops, encrypted drives, and phones revealed the blueprint of a global criminal enterprise. The Sinaloa Cartel, once known for traditional smuggling routes, had evolved into a hybrid organization fusing drug trafficking with digital technology and international finance. It was no longer just a cartel. It had become a cyber-enabled empire capable of moving money and information across continents in seconds, operating with the precision and discipline of a multinational corporation. The first major clue came from data servers hidden behind false panels inside the warehouse. Forensic teams uncovered encrypted channels linking directly to servers in Culiacan, the cartel's stronghold in Mexico. These systems weren't simple communication tools. They were command hubs running live analytics on shipments, bank transfers, and cryptocurrency flows. Real-time dashboards displayed coded updates from Hong Kong, Mexico City, and Miami. It became clear this was not an isolated operation, but a node in a vast global network. The digital trail led investigators to a staggering discovery. Sinaloa had created a financial ecosystem that hid its profits inside legitimate commerce. The FBI traced 31 shell companies registered in multiple countries, all claiming to deal in logistics, agriculture, or medical equipment. These ghost firms issued fake invoices, hired phantom employees, and rerouted payments through offshore accounts in Belize, Macau, and Panama. To disguise their shipments, the cartel used 42 unregistered transport trucks integrated into legal freight companies. Drugs were hidden in containers of fertilizer, chemical solvents, or medical supplies. Each truck had cloned license plates, falsified manifests, and GPS jammers to avoid tracking. The coordination between digital finance and transport showed how deeply Sinaloa had embedded itself within legitimate trade networks. Every route and transaction looked legal on paper. That was its genius and its greatest shield. Another shocking discovery came from digital wallets. Agents identified 28 rotating crypto accounts processing more than $18 million every week. The funds flowed through Hong Kong exchanges before conversion into stablecoins and redistribution across Mexico, Colombia, and the US. This network allowed Sinaloa to move huge sums instantly, leaving little trace for banking authorities. Unlike older cartels that relied on cash smuggling, Sinaloa had adopted blockchain as its new financial backbone. Decentralized transactions made it nearly impossible for law enforcement to trace or freeze assets. The FBI called this the first fully digitalized cartel economy. Transactions were encrypted, automated, and updated in real time, similar to operations inside a Silicon Valley firm. The line between organized crime and technology had vanished, replaced by a world where algorithms, not armies, held the power. The implications for US authorities were immediate. Traditional policing, surveillance, border checks, and seizures could not stop an enemy operating through data, code, and crypto. The FBI and Treasury officially reclassified the Sinaloa cartel as a fourth-generation cartel, a transnational syndicate functioning like a global tech conglomerate. Its hierarchy included programmers, analysts, and logistics coordinators instead of street smugglers. More alarming was how Sinaloa used legitimate supply chains to hide its crimes. By embedding within medical and logistics industries, the cartel turned legal trade into a cover. Products like painkillers and chemical precursors were diverted into fentanyl production, blurring the line between lawful and criminal enterprise. Washington officials warned this hybrid model could survive any crackdown because it feeds on the global economy itself. The revelations from Georgia proved America was no longer fighting simple smugglers, but a corporate empire fluent in technology, finance, and strategy. It was the evolution of organized crime into something far more intelligent and dangerous, a machine that thrives in the shadows of legality. And behind this sprawling financial and technological web stood one name whispered in intelligence circles: the Phantom of Sinaloa, Rafael El Sombra Ortega. Ortega is not the typical cartel boss seen in Hollywood movies. He is the mind behind a $5.2 billion empire that merges military precision, corporate organization, and digital warfare. From his command base near Culiacan, Ortega oversees a transnational network that reaches deep into the southern United States. To investigators, he represents a new generation of criminal leadership, one that values encryption over intimidation and technology over brute force. His nickname, El Sombra, the Shadow, captures his greatest strength, invisibility. Under Ortega's leadership, the Sinaloa network no longer behaves like a traditional cartel. It operates like a corporation with departments for finance, logistics, production, and cybersecurity. Every order flows through encrypted systems that delete automatically, leaving no trace. Agents who have investigated Ortega describe him as a CEO in a combat zone, someone who applies business logic to organized crime. His empire runs quietly and efficiently, without centralized control, making it nearly impossible to dismantle. Many experts now call him the Elon Musk of the underworld for turning chaos into coordination. At the heart of Ortega's operations lies his fortified compound on the outskirts of Culiacan. Satellite images and field reports describe it as a digital fortress, a mix of military base and high-tech headquarters. The site is surrounded by thick concrete walls, thermal sensors, and satellite towers. A private security force of 120 guards patrols the perimeter around the clock. Inside, Ortega's command team operates from an underground control bunker, equipped with power generators and air filtration systems. This bunker serves as the nerve center of Sinaloa's digital network. It manages cryptocurrency transactions, coordinates encrypted drone logistics, and links hundreds of field cells across Mexico and the US. Every stream of data is routed through independent nodes, making tracing nearly impossible. Even US intelligence agencies admit that breaching Ortega's network has proven almost impossible. His philosophy is simple: control the data, control the war. Unlike his predecessors, Ortega views narcotics not just as profit, but as a weapon. His strategy extends beyond production. It is a deliberate offensive aimed at weakening the United States from within. Each shipment that crosses the border is part of a plan to drain resources and destabilize communities. Intelligence reports show his distribution begins in low-income areas, where law enforcement is thin and social systems are fragile. Every kilogram of fentanyl from his labs means thousands of overdoses in the US, overwhelming hospitals and breaking families. Economically, the effect is severe. Fentanyl-related losses now exceed $70 billion annually. For Ortega, these figures are not collateral damage, but strategic metrics. In a decrypted DEA message, he allegedly said, "We don't fight America with guns. The chemicals will do it for us." His war is silent and statistical, one that erodes nations from within. What makes Ortega truly dangerous is his design of anonymity. His organization functions through independent cells that rotate leadership to avoid detection. This decentralized structure, modeled after asymmetric warfare tactics, ensures that even if one cell collapses, the others survive. The FBI has compared it to a digital insurgency, capable of regenerating faster than authorities can respond. Ortega himself is rarely seen. He uses AI voice synthesis, deepfake video calls, and erases his identity within hours of exposure. Analysts believe he carries multiple biometric identities and constantly shifts appearance. His empire isn't bound by borders or hierarchy. It is built to thrive in chaos. His ability to merge cybercrime, chemical warfare, and financial manipulation makes him more than a cartel leader. He is the prototype of a new kind of global enemy. To Washington, Ortega represents an adversary without flags or ideology, but with the power to reshape economies and societies. His empire thrives in the gray zone between crime and cyber warfare. In response to this threat, Washington had no choice but to launch a nationwide counter-operation known as Operation Northern Shield. For years, U.S. federal agencies had been criticized for poor coordination, rivalry, and slow responses, but Operation Northern Shield changed that overnight. It was one of the rare moments when the FBI, DEA, Homeland Security, and the U.S. Army acted as one unified force, proving that American institutions can still rise above politics when national security is on the line. The operation represented a new era in Washington's counter-narcotics and counterintelligence strategy, emphasizing unity and precision over isolated efforts. Within just 20 minutes, 86 agents, 19 armored vehicles, 6 surveillance drones, and 2 Black Hawk helicopters were deployed across Tennessee. The level of synchronization was extraordinary. Veteran officers described the mobilization as flawless, the kind of coordination they had not seen in years. This was not a routine drug bust. It was a well-planned strike built from months of surveillance, satellite tracking, and shared intelligence. Each movement was timed to the second, and every participant knew exactly where to be. Operation Northern Shield was America's answer to years of fragmentation, a demonstration that unity can still deliver overwhelming results when the stakes are national survival. The climax came at dawn near Knoxville, Tennessee. Federal task forces intercepted 3 civilian trucks believed to be carrying fentanyl shipments tied to the Ortega cartel. What began as a traffic stop turned into chaos when the drivers refused to surrender. One truck smashed through a security checkpoint, another overturned, scattering hundreds of fentanyl packets across the highway. Nearly 480 kilograms of the toxic substance spilled into open air, forcing hazmat teams to seal off the area immediately. If the wind had shifted even slightly, the contamination could have killed hundreds along the interstate. As the situation unfolded, agents noticed something unusual hovering overhead. A small drone tracking every move of the raid. Upon recovery, analysts confirmed it was a cartel-built reconnaissance UAV equipped with a consumer-grade AI system capable of facial recognition and thermal imaging. This discovery shocked U.S. officials. It meant that drug cartels were no longer relying solely on human scouts, but were entering a new technological phase, using AI-guided drones, cheap parts, and encrypted live streams to spy on law enforcement. The incident forced Washington to admit a difficult truth. Transnational crime had merged with modern technology, creating a threat that blurred the line between organized crime and cyber warfare. Operation Northern Shield became more than a field success. It evolved into a symbol of political strength for Washington, showing that America could still act with speed and discipline when unity was restored. The collaboration between law enforcement and military units offered a model for future operations, one where intelligence, surveillance, and tactical power worked as parts of the same machine. Analysts later described it as a proof of concept for hybrid security, combining domestic law enforcement with military precision to fight threats that now reach deep into U.S. territory. The operation also carried a clear message abroad. The United States was ready to adapt. By turning coordination into a weapon, it showed that America's true power lies not only in firepower, but in collective action. Still, the success in Tennessee was only the surface of a larger mission. Data from seized servers revealed encrypted maps and financial routes connected to something far bigger. The hidden command hub of Ortega's network, buried deep within the Appalachian Mountains. The hunt moves into the heart of the Appalachians, where the real architects of the cartel's AI-driven empire are waiting in the dark. The coordinated raid in the Appalachian Mountains marked a turning point in America's war against organized crime. For the first time, U.S. forces combined military-style tactics with federal intelligence to eliminate a cartel command center on U.S. soil. At dawn, the mountains erupted with controlled explosions and helicopter rotors as Operation Northern Shield entered its final stage. Federal agents, DEA strike teams, and U.S. Army Rangers advanced together under one command, surrounding Ortega's hidden fortress carved into the hillside. This mission wasn't just about capturing a drug lord, it was a declaration that Washington now viewed cartels as paramilitary threats to national security. The raid was executed with precision. Within minutes, communication towers were jammed and UAVs scanned escape routes. Ortega's guards fought briefly before being overwhelmed by coordinated firepower. By sunrise, Miguel Ortega, the elusive cartel leader, was captured alive in a fortified underground bunker of reinforced steel and concrete. His arrest symbolized more than a tactical success. It allowed agents to trace the architecture of his empire, from encrypted communications to financial channels supporting one of the largest narcotics networks in North America. What agents found inside the compound stunned investigators. Ortega's mountain fortress was less a hideout and more a command center of a shadow state. Inside were $68.7 million in cash and gold, chemical stockpiles to produce millions of doses of fentanyl, and hundreds of encrypted drives containing sensitive data. Each floor of the bunker housed specialized teams, communications experts, logistics coordinators, and financial managers, all operating with military discipline. Analysts later described it as a government within a government. Ortega's cartel had built its own infrastructure, power systems, surveillance networks, and secure data rooms mimicking official institutions. The seized drives revealed something even more disturbing: a parallel economy operating inside the United States. Ortega's organization had a technical division for AI-driven drone surveillance, a finance arm using cryptocurrency to launder billions, and supply chains hidden within legitimate corporations. It wasn't just a criminal syndicate, it was an alternative system built to survive government crackdowns. Intelligence officials compared it to a digital nation-state, blending crime, technology, and governance. The scale of the operation forced Washington to confront a new reality. The war on drugs had evolved into a war against invisible systems of power. Despite the triumph, experts cautioned against celebrating too early. Capturing Ortega, they said, was like cutting off the head of a hydra. While his command collapsed, regional cells and funding pipelines stayed active across several states and neighboring countries. Analysts warned that unless those networks were dismantled, new leaders would soon rise from the shadows. The Appalachian Raid was hailed as the most successful anti-cartel operation in U.S. history, but it also revealed how deeply the Ortega empire had embedded itself within digital and financial systems no single agency could fully control. The operation carried symbolic weight, proving America could still unite its institutions and act decisively. Yet it also served as a reminder: victory in one battle doesn't end a war that keeps mutating through technology and corruption. Washington's next challenge would not be firepower, but information dominance, stopping the rebirth of Ortega's empire before it reconnected itself online. That warning became reality when analysts decrypted one final file from Ortega's seized server. And what they found changed everything. When US analysts finally decrypted Ortega's last remaining server, they discovered a chilling phrase repeated hundreds of times: Phase 4, Roots, Adapting. Alongside it were 3 coordinates pointing directly to Detroit, Chicago, and Buffalo, cities that form a triangle across America's industrial heartland. To investigators, it wasn't a coincidence. It was a map, a sign that while Ortega's leadership had been eliminated, his network was already mutating into something new. The cartel was not dying. It was adapting. Intelligence reports soon confirmed the suspicion. Surviving members of Ortega's organization were restructuring their operations under a decentralized model. Instead of rebuilding command centers in Mexico or the border states, they were embedding themselves into legitimate industries across the North. Factories, warehouses, trucking companies, and even e-commerce supply chains had become the new camouflage. Drugs were no longer moved through remote crossings, but through normal trade routes, hidden in shipping containers, delivery trucks, and freight trains. Funds were laundered through small businesses, crypto wallets, and online payment systems, making detection nearly impossible. Experts began referring to this new system as the fourth-generation cartel. Unlike the brutal syndicates of the past that relied on violence and territory, this one thrived on invisibility. It used artificial intelligence to predict law enforcement patrols, cryptocurrency to move untraceable money, and data analytics to identify new routes and clients. Algorithms replaced lieutenants, cloud servers replaced command posts, and the entire network operated with the precision of a corporation, but with the intent of a criminal empire. This transformation has forced Washington to face a hard truth. The war on drugs is no longer a physical fight. It's a digital one. Drones, armored raids, and border patrols can't stop a network that exists inside code and supply chains. Data has become the new battlefield, and information the most valuable weapon. Intelligence agencies now track encrypted messages instead of radio chatter, and analysts hunt for algorithmic patterns rather than physical shipments. Every intercepted data packet, every suspicious blockchain transaction could be a clue leading to a hidden node of the cartel's system. The challenge is enormous. America's national security structure was built to fight enemies with faces, borders, and flags. The new threat has none of those. It hides in databases, logistics software, and financial systems that operate every second of the day. The decrypted files from Ortega's server proved one terrifying fact. The roots of the Sinaloa Ortega empire are still alive, learning, growing, and embedding themselves deeper into America's economic bloodstream. In this new phase, power alone is not enough. To survive, the United States must combine strength with constant vigilance, understanding that the real enemy may no longer carry guns, but algorithms. Operation Northern Shield proved that America's true strength lies not only in firepower, but in coordination, discipline, and precision. It showed how unity between federal and military forces can achieve what politics alone cannot: security through cooperation. The battle against cartels has become a national test of resilience, where the lines between crime, warfare, and technology are fading. Ortega's capture was a tactical victory, but it marked only the beginning of a longer struggle against the new generation of AI-driven, borderless cartels. The lesson is clear. Freedom is not a privilege inherited, but a responsibility maintained. It must be guarded each day with vigilance, determination, and an unshakable belief in justice. As America adapts to face invisible enemies hidden in networks and data, one truth remains constant: justice never sleeps, and neither does America. Peace is never guaranteed. It is built through understanding, awareness, and the lessons left behind by every conflict. Each war reveals not only the limits of power, but also the cost of ignoring dialogue and unity. Stay informed, stay curious, and subscribe to Military Power, where education meets the front line of history.